seems like one big test with barely much time to rest. It goes right when you go left. It's more than you can digest, but nobody's gonna die if you say you need some time to step back and clear your mind. Yeah, everyone will be fine. All you need to know is all you gotta breathe. Let it go and let it be. I hope that you're listening. There's only one thing you know you gotta do. That's breathe. Now breathe in and breathe out. Now breathe in and breathe out. Have faith and no doubt. You're gonna realize that's what life is all about. You just gotta breathe. Let it go and let it be. Yeah, I hope that you're listening. There's only one thing you know you gotta do. That's breathe. Yeah, all you gotta do is breathe. Yeah, let me hear you breathe. Hey, you, give me a clue. Do I make a move? Tell me, baby, what you wanna do. And hey, you, give me a clue. Do I make a move? Tell me, baby, what you wanna do. I'll do with you. Do with you. Hey, you, give me a clue. Do I make a move? Tell me, baby, what you wanna do. And hey, you, give me a clue. Do I make a move? Tell me, baby, what you wanna do. I'll do with you. Do with you. Hey, you. And hey, you, give me a clue. Do I make a move? Tell me, baby, what you wanna do. I'll do with you.
All right, guys. Hey, welcome over here to the show. This is Warren Workman, and I've got a filmmaker here. We're going to be talking about a movie called Dropping Out, and the filmmaker's name is Niko Gonzalez. Now, Niko actually is from California, but he moved to North Carolina. He was down at Blue Ridge. Well, I'll actually get to let him talk about more of his background here in a moment. But guys, let me go ahead and introduce Niko right now. Niko, welcome. How are you doing, buddy? Oh, where we go?
Hi,
Where we go?
Hi. Yay.
There
How's it
we
going?
are. It's going good, going good. So let's talk about, first off, a little bit about your background. I want to know about Niko Gonzalez, the filmmaker. Tell me,
All
how
right.
did you get into this whole crazy world of filmmaking addiction?
Filmmaking addiction. Yeah, great story. I mean, probably started with my dad showing me all those kind of classics of the kind of late 70s and 80s, Star Wars, Raiders of the Lost Ark, Back to the Future. But when I got to community college, I had studied filmmaking here and there, but when I got to community college, I was studying music. And then I took a history and appreciation of American film. And there I got to see a bigger breadth of what filmmaking could be. Stuff like Singing in the Rain and It Happened One Night. And probably the biggest, I don't know, game changer for me at that time was Citizen Kane, which is kind of a cliche at this point, but to me, it's still a seismic film, 80 years on. So after that, I moved over to North Carolina with my parents and started studying at Blue Ridge Community College, and got kind of a kick in the butt about experimental film. That was sort of unexpected. And then studied there for a good 3 years and then went on to Western Carolina and just finished my undergraduate. So now I'm out in the world, promoting my stuff and making stuff and actually taking a break right now, but should be working on a script soon. But this film we'll be talking about is the culmination. I call it the first real film I've actually made, where I could look at it and put it forth and go, here's everything that I'm capable of as a filmmaker, everything that's been leading up for the past decade or so.
What I liked about Dropping Out, we're going to get into the story here in just a moment, though, is that it looks like it was filmed in North Carolina because we're dealing with more of an industrial town. We're not in a very glitzy area, and it's not a family that you would call affluent. They're kind of just like your lower middle class family that's just trying to get by. But let's go ahead and just jump into the story. What is Dropping Out all about for you? And I'll even chime in with my 2 cents after watching it a little bit.
Sure. So what it means to me, I guess, it's one of those films. It's kind of weird for me to promote my own movies, to be honest, but it is fun to talk about it. In the sense that what it means to me is getting to, like you said, shine a spotlight on a community that doesn't get a lot of recognition, or at least a side of a community that doesn't get a lot of recognition. I was inspired a lot by, the Italian neorealist movement, stuff like Bicycle Thieves and Rome Open City, that took this familiar town and kind of flipped it on its head and showed a side of it that hadn't really been shown before in a time that it really needed that kind of attention. And I felt transplanting that to the South was, to me, I think at this time, crucially important, because we're seeing that side of our country come out in droves, and to give people that kind of empathetic voice, not being judgmental, but just letting them be, I think it was, to me, really significant. Because film has that power. You're off in Utah and I'm in North Carolina, and we're talking about this experience that hopefully feels human at the end of the day. And to me, that's why I can watch films from all around the world. Another big influence was the films of people like Mike Leigh and Ken Loach from England, the way they approach films, documentaries like The Maisels, specifically Grey Gardens. I feel like there's a lot of Grey Gardens in this movie. And so just taking all of those disparate elements, condensing them into my stylistic approach, finding a story that I wanted to tell in a way that I could tell it, with a limited budget, with limited crew. It's a student film that blossomed into a huge passion project, and it was quite a task to make it, but I'm really happy with the results.
Excellent. So one of the things I wanted to kind of point out, and this is my 2 cents from the movie as well. I'm just going to show off a couple of the stills here. We have Maggie and Chloe. These are 2 sisters that are having there's a bit of a sunshine and black cloud motif going on here. And this is very intentional as far as the direction on here goes. Maggie, of course, is our, well, not of course, but Maggie is our dropout daughter. She's the one who made some choices that the parents don't agree with. Chloe is becoming like the sunshine star child. And there's this conflict between the two. It's a natural conflict that we would expect to see with sisters when one's kind of been kicked out because they're just such a disappointment, and the other one is just kind of been the replacement right here. And you could see like even the dynamics here with the body language. Without even seeing a lot of the movie here, you guys can get an idea of, who's probably getting most of the attention here in the family, and what's happening here with the sibling because of it. And this is a nice moment here I like, because what we see is the two trying to reconcile, and there is this moment of connection that happens when they're talking about cake. It's how it's something that happened a long time ago, almost 10 years ago in the story, but they're able to reconnect and remember, hey, we're still sisters here. And so this is a very touching moment in the screen in the movie. And then this shot here just goes to show you how, here's the dynamics of the family. You have the parents are kind of on their own side, where the kids are separate a bit. But I think it just tells a lot just with the visuals. Okay. And so I think you did this intentionally, and I think I like that a lot. But where does this come from? Where does this story emanate from? Does it come from personal observations, personal life? Where does it come from for you, Niko?
Well, this type of story, I think, just comes from the way I observe life in general. Sort of not casting judgment, because we're all flawed human beings, and I'm a fan of family dynamics. And when you're sort of, I don't know, forced into a situation just by the virtue of being born, and making life choices, and how that reflects upon yourself, how that reflects upon your own life. To me, I think making choices in my life has repercussions that go on for years. Like I'm definitely now at a point where I have to make decisions that are going to impact the next 10 to 20 years of my life. And so getting out those anxieties through characters, but not making them characters, that was something that was really important, was that intentionality of the world stereotyping you, and do you live up to those stereotypes? Is a theme that has resonated with me for decades at this point. So to sort of get out those really personal viewpoints through a lens that I can focus, that I can take and focus in on these issues, was really liberating. And it was a real joy to work with everyone to bring all of those notions to life, whether it be like the cinematographer, production designer, down, of course, to the actors. I mean, bringing these characters to life. Casting is about 90% of a director's job, really, and then the rest, like the actors, if you give them the right material. This is like the best crop of actors I've ever worked with. It was like we put the camera down where we needed to, and they just went. Like they got it. And of course, we went through rehearsal processes, right? But we gave backstories and things that you don't even see in the film, just to give them that life, that we're just focusing in on one part of this family, one moment in their life, but that could potentially be a huge shift in the dynamics going forward.
I did notice that. So that is a very good way to describe this movie. This is a moment, right? So we're not telling a full story arc here. It's not a traditional story in that moment. It is a moment in these people's lives. We're coming in at a time where Maggie has a lot of tension with her parents. And it's starting to ricochet off to Chloe, who hasn't really done anything to deserve the ire of her sister here. But just because of the neglect and the abuse she feels like she's received from all this, it's just bouncing back off onto her, which has affected that dynamic. And we get to see that moment there, again, coming back to the shot where, where they're having this cathartic moment together. It's really short-lived, but it helps emphasize that even by the end of this movie, even though there's not a healing, I guess, for the whole family or anything, we did see that there's hope's not gone. And that happened earlier in the show instead of typically where we see that at the end, which I thought was an interesting choice to do it that way. Because this is a moment in a film, have you looked at expanding this story out further, or is this story kind of done? You're looking at the next project?
Yeah, I'm typically a one and done kind of person.
Whoa, that's crazy.
Hey, camera angles. There we go.
Camera angles all over the place, even up my nose.
So yeah, I'm typically a one and done kind of person. I tell the story I need, and I get out of there when I feel it's done. And so this is just, like I said, and like you said, a moment in time that, starts where it needs to, ends where it needs to. Anything beyond that is just superfluous. And I'm also one of those kind of restless people who I need to focus in on one thing, and when that's done, move on to the next thing. And I want it to be the 180 of what I just did. So what, you see in this film, certain themes and elements might carry on to the next film, but I want to create a body of work where you go, oh, he did that and that and that, and not be pigeonholed as like that guy. And so this was sort of a 180 response to things I've been doing, which were films that were very, very experimental, films that were very cerebral. And this was sort of me trying to kind of rein in all of those tendencies and almost kind of put a leash on them, but not in a really restrictive way, but in a way of like, how far can I push this in a quote unquote narrative film, without alienating a lot of people, but just finding this really interesting middle ground. And again, really happy with the results, which is something I don't say about a lot of my work. So it's kind of special when I do get to say it with 100% honesty.
Wonderful. Now, what you mentioned earlier, you're kind of on a break at the moment. Now, a lot of filmmakers during this break, it's not really a break. When I hear people talk about a break, it's I'm just not shooting something right this second, or I'm not editing something right this second. But a lot of the time, when a filmmaker's kind of in that percolating stage, if that makes sense, it's like, what is that next what is that next story I need to tell? What is that next moment I need to put on film? Have you? Where are you at in your filmmaking moment right now, as far as what's coming up next? Where are you at in your next development? If that makes sense.
Yeah, completely makes sense. Right now it's about finding the next story to tell. I'm formulating my first proper feature script to then shop around, maybe direct. I don't know. It's wide open. So it's just honing it in on that one story, really. And, inspiration can strike at any time. I can, the nice thing about, I guess, about this area is that on one hand, it's really rural and there's a lot of space to think. And on one hand, there are some urban outposts that I can go to that do foster a lot of artistic creativity. And my mind's always open to what's the next thing. And so even though I am working on a story, if I drive into the nearest town and see, I don't know, a group of people that interest me, I feel really lucky to live in a time where I could pull out a consumer grade camera and film a bunch of interesting people and put it out there and hopefully, make another kind of small piece that's an extension of what I want to explore. And the fact that I have access to then distribute that, like I can with this film dropping out, where a lot of people can see it for free. It was up for a couple weeks and got a really good response from people that saw it. It sparked a lot of debate, which is something I always try to do with my films. It's like, once I release it, it's out of my hands. And so now it's coming up with, okay, what's the next thing that I sort of want to release out into the world that can spark more debate over topics that I feel need to be talked about?
So when, at this stage in your career, because you're at that moment where you're like looking for the next thing, say somebody's watching this video right now and they say, Niko, I like your style. How do they get a hold of you, say, let's go work on the next project together?
Well, they can, my biggest outlet on social media is Facebook. That's just concentrated. So if you find me, my name's on there. I don't think there's a lot of people in the North Carolina area with my name, so it should be easy to find. You also see my face. And then from that, I can give out emails, and that's typically how I stay in touch, is just via email, Facebook, and cell phone. Like, I don't keep it too complicated. It's pretty streamlined.
I love it. Nice and simple.
Yeah.
Nice
and simple.
It's the way to go. Niko, thank you so much for chatting with me. The film is called Dropping Out. It was online for a bit. I understand it's also doing some film festival runs. That's how we got a hold of it here at the Utah Film Festival. Yeah. How far and wide is this going right there?
Worldwide. It's that sort of post project. Okay, now you want to get it out there as much as you can. So any place that'll have it, any place that wants it, any place that I want to show it, whether it be in Spain or California or France or wherever. That's sort of what I'm aiming for. I'm not aiming for like a specific market, just anyone that'll have it, any place that it fits, and we'll take it. Then let's screen it.
Excellent. Now the movie again is called Dropping Out. It is doing a festival tour right now. And Niko just wants people to watch it. That's really what it comes down to, guys. Just watch the movie. That's all we're really looking for. Oh, and there's my big old weird angle again. What's up with this crazy? Anyways, guys, live video streams. What are you going to do? It's a blast. Niko, thank you so much for chatting with me. It's been an absolute pleasure. Again, the film's dropping out, and it's going to be seen at a film festival near you. Take care, guys. Have a good one.